The mysteries of the universe are endless. Referred to as our final frontier into discovery, space has always contained extraordinary and mind-blowing mysteries since we first pointed our telescopes to the sky. This wonder and amazement has only grown as our technology has developed, allowing us to travel to these destinations we never believed possible. Instead of granting us answers to our questions, it has only led to grander theories and even more puzzling mysteries to surface. The universe is expanding faster than we thought. Whilst we may not be able to feel, see, or really understand it, the universe is constantly expanding. This, however, is not in the normal sense of the word. We are located within our galaxy, the Milky Way. However, the galaxies outside of ours are moving away from us, and the galaxies that are the farthest away are moving away from us faster. If you were to be in a different galaxy, for example, this would be the same. All galaxies outside of that galaxy would be moving away from it, even our own. They are not moving in the conventional sense of the word because they're moving with space rather than passing through. Whilst difficult to understand, the universe itself has no center, and everything within it is actually moving away from everything else. A famous analogy coined to explain this expansion is thinking of the universe as a loaf of raisin bread dough. As it is cooked, it rises and expands, and as a result, the raisins move away from one another, but they are still inside the bread. At this point, you might be asking, why isn't Earth moving away from everything else then? This is because on a local scale, such as around us, gravity keeps everything together and holds it in place. This was first discovered in 1925 by Edwin Hubble, the man the famous Hubble telescope is named after, and he proved that there was a direct relationship between the speeds of distant galaxies and their distances from Earth. This is now known as Hubble's law. The number, meaning the rate of cosmic expansion in relation to speeds of galaxies and their distance from Earth, is known as the Hubble constant. In the last couple of years, even up to this year, new evidence is suggesting that the universe is expanding much faster than initially first thought. The universe is outpacing all our expectations in its expansion, and that is very puzzling, says lead study author Adam Rees, an astronomer at Johns Hopkins University who co-won the 2011 Nobel Prize in Physics for helping discover dark energy. This new evidence suggests that measurements of the Hubble constant, mentioned earlier, using cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the early universe and the Big Bang, is actually conflicting with estimates of younger stars and even the Milky Way. This discrepancy is still apparent even after taking into account dark energy and other cosmic forces that are thought to be speeding up the universe's expansion. This has and is still disputed by other scientists and cosmologists as incorrect or incomplete data. However, fresh research from the Hubble as new as 2019 suggests this gap is actually larger than ever. It is estimated that the universe as we know it is expanding up to 9% faster than we originally thought when examining the trajectory of the universe's expansion from the Big Bang. What does this mean? Well, the discrepancy between the rate we believe the universe is expanding now and what we believed it should be from the trajectory created from the Big Bang means that scientists could be missing an essential factor in the cosmological model when measuring that would account for this discrepancy. For now, at least, what's missing is a mystery. But with all the fascinating discoveries we've talked about today, it would be no surprise if, in a couple of years from now, we were discussing a new strongest material or a new type of formation on a distant planet or even a new theory of the universe. We just don't know. One thing is for sure though, as we try and figure out this wacky wonderful universe, is that it certainly won't be boring. TON 618 Black Hole. Black holes are massive objects that, according to our most recent knowledge, exist in almost all the galaxies in the universe. However, there are some black holes that are so huge that it is impossible for us to wrap our heads around them. One such black hole is known as TON 618. It is situated near the North Galactic Pole in constellation Canes Venatici. TON 618 itself is a distant and very luminous quasar. It has been termed as a hyperluminous, broad absorption line, radio-loud quasar. This extremely luminous quasar was first discovered in 1957 during a survey of the faint blue stars that don't lie near the plane of the Milky Way galaxy. Scientists have estimated the size of this black hole to be equal to 66 billion suns. This makes it the most massive black hole ever found. The light originating from the quasar TON 618 that surrounds the ultramassive black hole is estimated to be 10.4 billion years old. The galaxy that surrounds the quasar is not visible from Earth, simply because the quasar itself outshines the galaxy. The quasar is estimated to be shining as brightly as 140 trillion suns. This makes it one of the brightest objects in the observable universe. Scientists have estimated the radius of the event horizon of the black hole to be approximately 194 billion kilometers. Event horizon can be described as the boundary beyond which nothing can escape, including light, which gives a black hole its distinctive black color. Researchers are baffled by the tremendous size of the black hole. One of the theories about the origins of this black hole is that it is a direct collapse black hole. Instead of being formed by a dying star supernova, this black hole was formed by a supermassive gas cloud collapsing under its own gravity. This is such a powerful process that it is capable of taking all the stars within the gas cloud with it, resulting in the consumption of thousands of distinct sources of mass, and eventually the formation of a supermassive black hole. The mysterious radio signals from the M82 galaxy. For 10 years now, astronomers have been picking up mysterious radio signals from the M82 galaxy. Located about 12 million light-years away, the Messier 82 is a starburst galaxy located in the Ursa Major constellation. This galaxy is 5 times more luminous than our Milky Way galaxy, and its center is 100 times more luminous than our galaxy's center. Receiving a radio signal from such a distant galaxy is quite mind-blowing. It opens up all kinds of possibilities. Researchers do not know anything about the object that is making these signals. The first signal from the M82 galaxy was received by the Parkes Radio Telescope in Australia. Up until now, more than 20 signals have been discovered. As you would expect, this is one of the hottest topics in astronomy today. Some scientists have given the theory that these signals are coming from the high-energy pulsars that are being consumed by a black hole in the M82 galaxy. Another theory points towards the possibility of massive cosmic explosions. And then there is always a possibility, as per our own understanding, that an alien race might just be trying to contact us. The discovery of these mysterious radio signals from the M82 galaxy has given scientists a new hope about the possibility of an alien civilization. At the same time, it has also opened up a whole new mystery to be solved by researchers. Will we be able to see this mystery unfold during our lifetime? Only time will tell. Starless exoplanets may orbit black holes. Exoplanets are, put simply, just planets that don't orbit our Sun. Recent studies have found, though, that some exoplanets, rather than orbit a star, are orbiting supermassive black holes. This is also thought to be quite common across the universe, as evidence suggests that at the centre of a galaxy, the supermassive black hole can pull planets into its orbit. What's more is that it doesn't stop there. Theories suggest that these planets can also be formed around these black holes. Whilst it's true that black holes are never ending in the pursuit to consume everything around it, they can also form a ring around themselves. These rings are made of various gases and dust, but form anywhere up to 30 light-years away from the supermassive black hole itself. It is theorized that planets can be formed when a star forms. The cloud of gas and dust from around the star collapses and forms disks. These disks are then pulled together and merged by gravity. As you can probably put together, this new research suggests that the clouds formed around a supermassive black hole can create these disks and potentially, in turn, planets. These planets created around the black holes would be around 10 times the mass of the Earth and could be giant ice or rock planets. Also, because these planets would be formed light years away from the black hole, that there wouldn't be any strange happenings on these planets caused by the extreme gravity from the black hole. The scientists carrying out this research at the University of Kagoshima in Japan also estimate that tens of thousands of these planets could be orbiting the supermassive black holes in the centers of galaxies, and even go as far as to say this could be happening in our own galaxy too. The Japan Earth Grazer 2006. Meteors are the small bodies of matter that enter the Earth's atmosphere and become incandescent due to friction. They travel at very high speeds and appear as streaks of light. While many of the meteors hit the surface of the Earth, some meteors enter the Earth's surface in such a trajectory that is almost parallel to the Earth's surface. Due to their high speed, these meteors bounce back into the upper atmosphere and re-enter space. Such meteors are known as Earth grazers. One of the most fascinating examples of an Earth grazer was observed in Japan. On March 29, 2006, the citizens in several cities of Japan witnessed a bright fireball travel across the sky. Scientists in different research facilities in Japan were able to accurately measure the characteristics of the meteor. Scientists determined that the fireball was caused by a meteor that weighed approximately 100 kilograms. It had entered the Earth's atmosphere at a height of 87 kilometers, and then it covered a distance of 1,000 kilometers in only 35 seconds before leaving the Earth's atmosphere. This was only the third Earth grazer to have been observed and measured accurately by scientists. It was widely photographed, and videos were made by ordinary people and scientists observing the Earth grazer. The event was also widely covered by the mainstream media. It was one of the most rare and fascinating space-related events to have ever been witnessed by a large number of people. Red Square Nebula. In April 2007, NASA released images of a massive celestial object located in the constellation Serpens. This red-colored bipolar nebula is located in the same area of the sky as the star MWC 922. Scientists named it Red Square Nebula because of its color and shape. The images of the Red Square Nebula were taken using the Mount Palomar Hale telescope. This massive object is estimated to be located at a distance of 5,000 light-years from Earth. The unique nebula has fascinated scientists because of its symmetrical shape. According to Peter Tuthill, an astrophysicist at Sydney University, Red Square Nebula is one of the most symmetrical celestial objects ever imaged. Researchers are unsure about the exact composition and the origin of Red Square Nebula. However, most of the researchers believe that the massive star MWC 922, located at the center of the nebula, is responsible for its existence. According to Peter Tuthill, many stars that have a low mass, like the Sun in our solar system, get rid of their outer layers in order to produce stunning planetary nebulae. Researchers believe that this dying star is ejecting gas and dust into the surroundings, creating the nebula. It is believed to be a bipolar nebula formed as a result of the material emitting from the opposite sides of the star. The Twin Brother Experiment. Definitely seen as one of the strangest findings discovered on that of the International Space Station are the tests conducted by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration to better understand the effects of long-term space inhabitation that was given the name of the Twin Brother Experiment. The experiment was referred to as the Twin Brother Experiment due to the fact that NASA scientists sent up an astronaut of whom had a twin brother that they could use as a comparison of information compared to the astronaut brother of whom would be spending close to a year in space. After his time up in space, the astronaut went through a battery of tests to show any kind of differences, degradations or changes in his overall anatomy to help explain the effects of long-term space habitation and prepare for eventual long-term space travel or colonization efforts. After using more than 10 different research teams to conduct experiments on measuring large numbers of metabolites, cytokines, and proteins, the research study found a strange effect that space had on gene expression. The teams found that though 93% of the genome from the brother that was in space returned to normal upon landing back on Earth, there appeared to be changes in more than 7% of his DNA that led to changes in the health of his immune system, DNA repair, bone formation networks, hypoxia, and hypercapnia. This meant that after the 1-year mission, the twin was more than affected by the cosmic radiation in space that led to dramatic changes in his gene expression, as well as manifested illnesses in his life. These changes didn't revert back to normalcy for another 6 months after landing back on Earth, and leads many to believe that it could very well be possible to have permanent genetic damage due to longer exposure to cosmic radiation, regardless of the shielding of the capsules and the effects zero gravity have on the astronauts aboard the ISS. Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall. The largest known structure in the observable universe is Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall. This unimaginably massive object is a galactic filament comprising of a vast group of galaxies bound by gravity. This massive cluster of galaxies is estimated to be about 10 billion light-years across. Astronomers determined the size of the gigantic structure by mapping the gamma-ray bursts emitted from it. Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall was discovered in November 2013. It exceeds the size of huge LQG by more than 2 times. Astronomers detected 19 GRBs from the structure. The gamma-ray bursts were discovered in the direction of the Hercules and the Corona Borealis constellations. Therefore, the structure was named the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall. According to John Hakila, one of the astrophysicists behind the discovery of Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall, the structure is larger than the theoretical upper limit on how big the universal structures can be. But the discovery of this structure has truly confused scientists about the cosmological principle. John Hakila believes that there is still a chance that sooner or later astronomers will find a structure even bigger than the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall. Scientists believe the size of the observable universe to be approximately 93 billion light-years. This means that the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall that spreads approximately 10 billion light-years across is about 10% of the observable universe. Another mind-blowing fact about this gigantic structure is that it is located at a distance of more than 10 billion light-years from Earth, and it is believed that it came into existence only 3 to 4 billion years after the Big Bang. Researchers believe that this gigantic structure consists of billions of galaxies. This means that there could be potentially trillions of stars and planets within this gigantic structure. The chemical and biological possibilities that lie within this structure are endless. Exoplanets located in TRAPPIST-1. Discovered within the TRAPPIST-1 system that made headlines from all around the world, TRAPPIST-1d was one of the many exoplanets found orbiting a star very similar in heat and size to our own Sun that led many research scientists to believe that many of the planets orbiting around the Sun to be Earth-like habitable planets and ideal for future colonization of a solar system. The most exciting prospect of this discovery was not only the planets, however, but rather the distance the system is from our own solar system, being only a mere 39.6 light-years away from us, making it an interstellar neighbour with a much easier point of access. In fact, previous efforts in developments of space technologies such as that of the Orion nuclear-powered spacecraft could see the journey to the TRAPPIST-1 system met in as little as 1 generation of passengers and accomplished in a short 60 years. This very well means that efforts could be started right now to begin interstellar colonization with current space technologies without any additional stress of developments already being performed. The TRAPPIST-1d planet in orbit around the Sun-like star of the TRAPPIST system also appears to be cooler than that of our own Earth and far richer in composition of precious metals, a rocky surface, a low gravity for easy takeoff, and an atmosphere filled with dense water vapor for colonization efforts. However, given the planet's size, mass, and density, it is theorized to have a weak electromagnetic field which would not help to shield colonization efforts from damaging cosmic radiation, similarly seen on our neighboring planet Mars. But even if the planet turns out to be incompatible with future colonization efforts once the passengers arrive at their destination, it can easily be cannibalized for resources to build megastructure bases capable of supporting human life and assist in the efforts of terraforming and colonizing the other neighboring planets nearby. The closest neighbor to the TRAPPIST-1d planet, TRAPPIST-1c, is seen as the best candidate for future human colonization efforts that require next to no additional research developments in the realm of colonization. The short distance of the interstellar neighbor, along with all the raw resources that can be gathered by the neighboring planet, is only the first bullet point as to why TRAPPIST-1c is a prime candidate for colonization. Back in 2016, researchers found that the planet has a temperature that is very similar to Earth, with a maximum surface temperature of 140 degrees Fahrenheit, a temperature similarly seen in areas on Earth such as Death Valley. Additionally, TRAPPIST-1c has a gravitational force that is 97% equal to that of Earth's gravitational forces, making it habitable for long-term endeavors without risk to the health and wellness of colonizers, as well as a mass large enough to support a strong electromagnetic field that can shield colonizers from deadly cosmic radiation. This makes it a prime environment worthy of colonization efforts, as the size, atmosphere, electromagnetic field, and mass of the planet seem to be an almost perfect mirroring of our very own planet. Recent research also believes the planet to have a rich atmosphere of water vapor that could potentially see the planet slightly cooled enough to have surface temperatures similar to that of Earth. Giant GRB Ring. In August 2015, a team of American and Hungarian astronomers discovered a ring of galaxies spreading 5.6 billion light-years across. The massive galactic ring was revealed by 9 gamma-ray bursts, and hence it was named Giant GRB Ring. The researchers have estimated the distance of the ring to be around 9.1 billion light-years from Earth. GRBs, or giant gamma-ray bursts, are emitted when a dying star runs out of fuel. It eventually implodes, forming a black hole. During this process, huge quantities of energy get blasted in the form of collimated beams. And if Earth happens to align with these beams, the scientists can observe these incredibly luminous signals, which can then be used to determine the distance to the GRB as well as the location of the galaxy hosting it. The scientists believe that the 9 GRBs of the giant GRB ring are associated to each other, as they are all located at approximately a similar distance from Earth. According to scientists, there is a huge probability that these GRBs were emitted by the same structure, and if this is the case, this would be yet another structure that contradicts the current models of the universe. In spite of its supermassive size, the giant GRB ring is not the largest known structure in the observable universe. The 2008 TC3. On October 7, 2008, an asteroid entered the Earth's atmosphere and exploded 37 kilometers above the Nubian Desert in Sudan. Scientists estimated that the asteroid had a diameter of 4.1 meters and weighed more than 80 tons. The asteroid disintegrated as a result of the explosion in the atmosphere, and more than 600 meteorites belonging to this asteroid were recovered by scientists. Many of these meteorites belonged to the rare type known as uralites. These uralites contain a number of different minerals, including nanodiamonds. Known as the TC3 asteroid, this was the first asteroid whose impact was predicted before entry into the Earth's atmosphere. The asteroid was discovered 19 hours before impact. It was discovered by Richard A. Kowalski, who was working at Catalina Sky Survey, a telescope in Arizona, United States. The meteor exploded 37 kilometers above the Earth's atmosphere. The energy of the explosion was measured to be equal to that of a 0.9 to 2.1 kilotons of TNT. A large fireball was created as a result of the explosion. According to media reports, the light from the explosion was so intense that it lit up the sky just like the full moon. An airliner that was traveling 1,400 kilometers away from the explosion reported seeing a very bright flash of light. After the explosion, scientists started searching for the torn-apart meteorites. 15 meteorites were discovered within the first 3 days of the explosion. After analysis, the researchers concluded that the asteroid TC3 belonged to a class of asteroids known as F-class asteroids. Researchers found amino acids on the collected meteorites, and they concluded that the source of the asteroid was most probably another planet in our own solar system. One of the pieces of the TC3 asteroid was gifted to Richard Kowalski, the scientist who discovered the asteroid before it had entered the Earth's atmosphere. According to scientists, it is not uncommon for asteroids of such a size to hit the surface of the Earth. In fact, 2 or 3 such asteroids hit Earth every year. The meteorite that wiped out the dinosaurs. Scientists believe that about 66 million years ago, one of the most catastrophic events in the Earth's entire history took place. Researchers have found abundant geological evidence of an asteroid hitting the surface of the Earth and causing massive destruction. However, the most conclusive evidence was discovered in 1978, when geophysicists working for an oil company discovered a massive impact crater underneath the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The crater is located near the town of Chicxulub, and therefore it has been named the Chicxulub crater. Subsequently, the asteroid that created the crater was also named the Chicxulub asteroid. Over the years, a number of research studies have been conducted to determine the various features of the crater and the asteroid that caused it. It is estimated that the crater is 150 kilometers in diameter and 20 kilometers in depth. The crater goes quite deep into the continental crust. Researchers believe that the Chicxulub asteroid was approximately 10 kilometers in diameter. As this massive asteroid hit the surface of the Earth, it caused a massive explosion, resulting in Earth's atmosphere being polluted by a huge amount of debris. This severely altered the Earth's climate and caused the extinction of more than 75% of species that existed on Earth, including dinosaurs. Some evidence has also hinted that a massive tsunami was also triggered as a result of the explosion. Researchers are still trying to get their heads around the climatic conditions immediately after the meteor impact. Further research is being carried out in order to better understand the mix of dust and various gases that engulfed the planet after the impact from the Chicxulub asteroid. Water found on the Moon. Scientists have often attempted to theorize the contents of the Moon as well as its surface materials ever since the beginning of the Cold War space age, and efforts to retrieve lunar material were made. There was hope that the Moon would prove to be a far more capable life-bearing body, as it is the closest celestial body to our home planet. However, evidence retrieved from the Moon after the original Moon landings proved that estimates could not be more incorrect at this original assumption. Unlike our planet, the Moon is not protected by a magnetic field of any kind, and is constantly bombarded by a significant amount of helium-3 as a product of solar wind radiation. It is this constant bombardment that would lead to the lack of any life-bearing developments on the Moon of any kind, including any attempt at finding naturally occurring water on the surface of the Moon. However, recent satellite imaging has provided what the National Aeronautics and Space Administration has referred to as unambiguous data that shows evidence of large reservoirs of water on the surface of the Moon. The satellite evidence, published in the September 25th issue of the journal Science, provided details that residing deep in lunar craters that are permanently shadowed from solar radiation, there are large pockets of ice that could store enough water to allow for the establishment of permanent lunar bases. The existence of these ice craters provides evidence that the water molecules on the Moon are incredibly mobile, allowing them to find their way to the craters and pooling at the bottom. In fact, planetary geologist Carl Peters claimed if the water molecules are as mobile as we think they are, even a fraction of them, they provide a mechanism for getting water to those permanently shadowed craters. This opens a whole new avenue of lunar research, but we have to understand the physics of it to utilize it. Not only does this discovery have profound implications for lunar research and planetary geology, but it provides enough evidence and support for the establishment of lunar colonization that could see itself in use within the next few decades, as NASA has been working on their Moon to Mars mission that will use our orbital satellite as a launching point for rocketry and further colonization of the Martian surface. The first radio broadcast. Though its influence in history has been astounding, the small broadcasting device we know as the radio has not been around for very long. In fact, its inventor Nikola Tesla did not first conceive of the idea until 1885. Despite the young age of the device, it was made apparent that Mr. Tesla was far ahead of his own time when first coming up with its invention, being the only inventor of his time to be made aware of the electromagnetic spectrum and the ability to tap into its powers and uses. Oddly enough, Tesla wrote extensively in his notes that when he made the first radio capable of receiving and broadcasting his signal, as soon as he turned on the device, he could already hear another person's voice on the other side. He would later go on to claim that the people transmitting him a signal were those of beings living on the surface of Mars, and that they were attempting to make first contact with him. This was only made more eerie as Nikola Tesla wrote that this voice was that of a man calling out his name, saying Tesla 123 over and over again before the signal cut out entirely. Many researchers speculate that this signal could have been nothing more than background radiation misinterpreted, caused by a solar wind of the sun. However, many believe that perhaps something far more creepy could have been going on in the background. No explanation for this strange occurrence has been provided, and still many speculate that perhaps Nikola Tesla made contact with something not quite human. Ranging from extraterrestrials to time travelers, the conspiracy theory community seems hell-bent on trying to discover the root cause of Nikola Tesla's first received broadcasts. Is time travel possible? This question has to be up there with why we are here and is there a God? If time travel is possible, then who on Earth wouldn't want to try it out? In theory, we are all travelling in time, just not in the way that you or I would think of it. As humans, we are travelling at 1 second per second. So yes, we are travelling in time. The thing is, we want to travel faster than 1 second per second, and that is what we think of as time travel. There are actually discrepancies between time at altitude and on Earth, due to the difference in gravity. An aeroplane travelling in the air will actually experience time around a second slower than you will standing on Earth. This principle also applies to the way GPS works. According to a leading time travel researcher, William A. Hiscock, a professor of physics at Montana State University, travelling into the future is definitely possible, but there is a big maybe hanging over travelling into the past. The way in which time travel would theoretically work is by using something called the time dilation effect of special relativity. This tells us that a clock appears to tick slower the closer it gets to the speed of light. Hiscock further explains how if you were to board a space rocket and accelerate continuously at 1g, which is the acceleration that would produce a force equal to the gravity at the Earth's surface, you would reach near the speed of light in around a year. If you then continued to accelerate to the speed of light, the time dilation effect of special relativity would come into play and time would slow down on board the ship. With these factors in place, a round trip to the center of our galaxy and back to Earth would take around 40 years in Earth time. However, due to the center of the galaxy being 60,000 light-years away, 60,000 years would have passed on Earth, and hence you would have time traveled. This also happens to astronauts if they have a twin sibling. If this were true for somebody who had traveled to space, they'd actually return so slightly younger than their twin. Now, even though all this is actually possible in terms of physics, the engineering practicality of it all is not practical at all, which is why it's unlikely we'll be time traveling anytime soon. In terms of going back in time, things get a little bit more complicated. Wormholes is one of the ways that we could explore the past. However, you can't simply find a wormhole and step through it, which again presents a problem. Stephen Hawking proposed a theory called chronology projection conjecture, which essentially is a sciencey way of saying that nature does not want us to go back in time. In other words, the past does not want to be changed. There's lots of loose ends when it comes to our understanding of space and how we can make our wildest fantasies into things that are a lot more real than a Hollywood blockbuster. Sadly, We aren't quite at that level of understanding yet. But as time goes on, science will only further develop, and we may be closer or further than we think from these answers. Gordon Cooper sees a UFO. Gordon Cooper lived an esteemed life as an aerospace engineer, United States Air Force pilot, and eventual astronaut. Cooper fought in World War II and was so impressive that the United States gave him the opportunity to travel into space. While Cooper was an amazing astronaut who broke records for the fastest journey from the Earth to the Moon and back, and who was also the first astronaut to spend an entire day and night in space, his legacy is somewhat controversial. Like many other space cadets, Cooper had been a pilot his entire life and was extremely familiar with aerospace science. His credentials as an aerospace engineer and fighter pilot proved that he was a man of science and discipline. So, when he wrote his memoir detailing his experience with UFOs, his readers were perplexed. How could this man, who has such a firm grip on practical science, be so convinced that he has seen signs of alien life? Though some people lost faith in his credibility, Cooper still gained a following of people who agreed that extraterrestrial life not only exists, but that it makes its way into the Earth's atmosphere more often than we thought. Cooper's first UFO sighting happened while he was flying over Germany post-World War II. While he and his crew were setting up a landing space for aircrafts atop a dry lake, an uninvited disc-like aircraft landed about 50 yards from the crew members. Because of its mysterious arrival, the men were conflicted whether they should approach the aircraft or call in for backup. Eventually, they moved towards it while snapping pictures of it. They recall the aircraft being completely silent as it landed and took off again. It had extended its legs when landing and recalled them as it rose back into the sky. Once it was back in the air, they never saw it again. Immediately after, Cooper called his contact at the Pentagon, where he was instructed to send the photos of the mysterious aircraft to the intelligence agency. Cooper looked at the photos himself before sending them in to ensure that they represented exactly what he saw with his own eyes. He reported that the photos were in great condition and that the aircraft was clearly visible. After a long while of waiting for a response from the Pentagon, Cooper grew suspicious that there would be no follow-up and that the Pentagon had ulterior motives to cover this up. Even without acknowledging that this aircraft was indeed an extraterrestrial UFO, the Pentagon had plenty of reason to launch an investigation because an unmarked vessel entered a classified and secured military location. After this, Cooper began to write down his experience seeing the UFO in great detail, which eventually played a huge role in his published memoir. Cooper lost a great deal of military and scientific credibility when he reported his findings to America, as people began to see him as a bit crazy. He was known to publicly taunt and discredit the Pentagon because he believed that they knew more about UFOs than they revealed to the general public, and that the secrets they are harboring would be very detrimental to space exploration and military intelligence. Cryovolcanoes on Ceres. In the main asteroid belt that sits between Mars and Jupiter lies Ceres, the largest of the asteroids. Ceres, first discovered in 1801 by Giuseppe Piazzi, was originally classified as a planet. This was until other large objects were discovered in the same neighborhood as Ceres. Astrologists at the time realized they were looking at a new type of object in space, so the term asteroid, meaning star-like, was first coined to describe these new objects. In the 1860s, it was widely accepted that these large asteroids had major differences to the planets we know, but a specific definition of planet was never formulated. At the 2006 Pluto debate, it was discussed the specific criteria that had to be met in order for an object to be considered a planet. Had it not been for a modification to this criteria stating the planet must have cleared the neighborhood around its orbit, Ceres would today be the fifth planet from the Sun. Obviously, due to the asteroid belt it lies within, Ceres is not classified as a planet but a dwarf planet and an asteroid simultaneously. Now, whilst the controversy surrounding Ceres' classification is certainly interesting, that's not what we're going to discuss today. Ceres itself is home to something much more fascinating. Since early 2015, NASA's Dawn spacecraft has orbited the icy world of Ceres, examining its surface closely. It wasn't until quite a few months had passed that the Dawn would observe something so fascinating but so bizarre at the same time. It was a 13,000-foot tall mound closely resembling what we know as a volcano. Scientists named it Ahuna Mons. In 2016, it was confirmed that Ahuna Mons was indeed a volcano, but not your average volcano, a cryovolcano. A cryovolcano is, as you can imagine, a volcano, but with a twist. Instead of releasing molten rock or lava like the volcanoes we have on Earth, a cryovolcano erupts water, methane, or ammonia. The water and other gases released often turn into a solid form once exposed to the low temperature surrounding the volcano, hence the more colloquial name ice volcanoes. These eruptions are referred to as cryomagma or cryolava. During eruption, they are liquid but are also released as a vapor. Cryovolcanoes are thought to be able to form on moons and asteroids that used to have an abundance of water. The reason Ahuna Mons erupts water and other substances rather than magma is simple. The temperatures on Ceres are simply too cold to melt rock, but warm enough that ice can melt. Ahuna Mons was only able to be understood more when scientists examined mineral salt, likely the product of a cryovolcanic eruption, inside the Okator crater found it had origins in Ahuna Mons, which in turn relates both fascinating natural structures. The Okator crater is 57 miles across and as deep as Ahuna Mons is high. The large impact that tore the giant Okator crater into the surface of the dwarf planet must have originally started everything and triggered the later cryovolcanic activity, says Andreas Nathus, framing camera lead investigator for Max Planck. After this event, rock around the planet reshuffled and moved up towards the surface. The change in pressure allowed water and dissolved gases to escape that would eventually form a volcano. It's also suggested that many smaller explosions around the dwarf planet caused the cryovolcanism rather than one major event. Cryovolcanism isn't exclusive to Ceres though, as it has been spotted on Enceladus, one of Saturn's moons, Europa, a moon of Jupiter, and Triton, Neptune's largest moon. Cryovolcanoes are a fascinating insight into the wonders of the universe and things we couldn't even imagine being possible. Abell 85 Galaxy Black Hole. A black hole is essentially a region or place in space where the gravity is so strong that even things like light, radiation, or practically any particles cannot escape it. Black holes are thought to be created when a star dies. Black holes can be a variety of sizes, the biggest being a supermassive black hole. These are actually quite terrifying to think about. They have a mass equal to that of millions of suns, which is astronomical. These supermassive black holes are at the center of large galaxies across the universe. Our own galaxy, in fact, has one at the center that is known as Sagittarius A. Scientists have found that its mass is the same as around 4 million of our own suns. Black holes themselves cannot be seen due to the fact that no light can escape them, however. Scientists can study how the surrounding area and stars, for example, and that indicates the location of a black hole. Late last year, the Max Planck Institute for Extraterrestrial Physics found what is currently thought to be the largest black hole in the nearby universe. When observing the Abell 85 cluster, a cluster of roughly 500 galaxies, and more specifically the galaxy at the very center of the cluster known as Holm 15A, scientists noticed that the center of this galaxy was much more faint than it should normally be considering the sheer mass of stars within the galaxy. This was what indicated the presence of a never-before-seen black hole. After attempting to measure the mass of said black hole, the scientists discovered the estimates were much larger than thought, and in fact, this black hole, now dubbed an ultramassive black hole, has a mass of around 40 billion times that of our Sun. That is a staggering number, and there's no real way to comprehend something of that scale. However, it is fascinating nonetheless. You might be wondering how something as massive as this ultramassive black hole could even exist within a galaxy, given the size of our own. Well, Holm 15A is a giant galaxy known as an elliptical galaxy. An elliptical galaxy is formed when a spiral galaxy, such as our own, the Milky Way, merges within another spiral galaxy. It goes further though, as this newly formed elliptical galaxy can then merge with another elliptical galaxy, creating an even bigger galaxy. When these galaxies merge together, the black holes in their centers can also merge, and exactly like the galaxies themselves, create an even larger black hole, and so on. When these black holes collide and get larger, it can push stars away, forming the darker center. This is how the scientists discovered the Holm 15A black hole. While the Holm 15A black hole is the most massive in the nearby universe, being only 700 million light-years away from us, there is evidence of an even larger black hole located around 10 billion light-years away from Earth in the Ton 618 quasar. This ultramassive black hole is estimated to have the mass of around 66 billion times that of our Sun. Vladimir Kovalayanog witnesses a UFO explosion. Vladimir Kovalayanog, a Russian cosmonaut and Air Force general, claimed to have seen a UFO on a space expedition on May 5, 1981. He is not the first cosmonaut to have seen a UFO. In fact, there are multiple space explorers who have reported seeing UFOs traveling extremely fast through space. So if there are multiple people who travel into space and see UFOs with their very own eyes, how can we cease to hear about it? There is a simple explanation. Nobody believes them. UFOs have been so mystified in Hollywood and in the media that we believe a UFO must be accompanied by a small green alien. And even more, the presence of such UFOs and aliens must entail some kind of abduction. Of course, most of the space explorers don't ever claim to be seeing aliens or even conclude that the UFO is filled with aliens. They simply report seeing an unidentified flying object. Vladimir Kovalayanog's UFO sighting was a bit different. As his spacecraft flew across Africa towards the Indian Ocean, he reported seeing a disc-shaped object surrounded by fog in the shape of a cone. This object was flying near him when suddenly it changed directions, exploded, and then exploded again. Kovalayanog reports seeing two different explosions, one after the other, resulting in two spherical figures of gold and white smoke. The white smoke, he said, seemed to be holding the two objects together. Soon the mysterious flying object he saw disappeared under the Earth's shadow and he never saw it again. Kovalayanog is adamant that the spacecraft he saw explode and disappear was controlled by intelligent life. Although he didn't report seeing any little green aliens, he stands by the fact that something was controlling the spacecraft he saw. His reports were not completely dismissed in Russia. Kovalayanog was a prestigious cosmonaut who spent 216 days total in space over the course of 3 different space missions. He was an extremely brave and intelligent asset to the Russian Space Force, and his legacy as a space explorer continues today. Hollow Moon. On November 14th, 1969, in an attempt to better understand the makeup of the Moon, NASA placed multiple seismic readers across its surface and then soon launched a lunar space module on a collision course for the Moon. The idea behind this theory was to allow the lunar module to strike the Moon with such a dramatic force that it would send reverberations and specific frequencies throughout the entire core of the Moon and allow the seismic readers to capture this data and help to accurately map out the inside of the Moon. What they soon discovered was baffling. Original theories and hypotheses had suggested that these reverberations would not last longer than a minute, given that the surface of our Moon is covered in mostly basalt, which would work to absorb these reverberations and, given its extensive presence, was believed to make up the majority of the mantle of the Moon at this time. It was mathematically calculated to prevent the seismic activity from lasting for a prolonged period of time. However, as the lunar module struck the Moon, the entire celestial body began reverberating for over an hour, NASA scientists describing its reverberations similar to that of a church bell ringing. There is still no reasonable hypothesis for the cause of this today, and no further information can be gathered given NASA's lack of future missions to the Moon. The most legitimate theory available at this time comes from the works of Russian researchers Michael Vasin and Alexander Shabakov that had posited the artificial moon theory. They began to notice that the craters of the moon, regardless of the impact size or diameter, all equaled out in depth. They also noted that these craters generally had very shallow and flat interiors, and in other areas even containing convex bottoms. They hypothesized that meteors are hitting an armored hull underneath the basaltic surface of the moon, preventing further depths into the celestial body, and believing the moon to be a possible spaceship created by a complex alien life. This theory was only reinforced as the mathematics for the moon and its density became an apparent issue. Given its size, location, and theorized general makeup, the moon should have a density of roughly 5.5 grams per cubic centimeter. However, given its orbital path and overall physics, we find the moon to only be 3.3 grams per cubic centimeter, causing the moon to be significantly less dense compared to our Earth, despite theories of the moon's creation coming from the materials of the Earth. Reinforcing facts also soon began becoming connected to the strange anomalous properties of our moon. The moon is too big to have naturally been caught into the orbit of our planet. For comparison, our moon is 2,159 miles in diameter, whereas the largest Martian moon is merely 14 miles in diameter. This has led to a wide array of debates among the scientific community as to its formation, and even recreations and simulations of impact theory have proven ineffective and mathematically implausible as to the formation of our moon. Strange coincidences have also occurred. Our moon has the perfect diameter at the perfect distance to create a perfect solar eclipse. The odds of this naturally occurring are astronomical and have led to further questions as to the viability of our moon naturally forming. But what do you make of these interesting discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.